made me forget about my problems. It was just a super fun film. Fashion was great. The eyebrows were on
Because
point.
that first scene with Gina Ortega is super intense, right? And with Scream, he basically is commenting on the slasher, movie. Also, the telephone, ring, ring, ring. In the first ones it's the landline, of course, but now it's the
The,
cell phones are going.
I will say that the real star is The
Always
Voice.
have a whodunit. Like, who the hell
Yeah,
is
just
it?
going to parties and forgetting that there's a killer on the loose.
Amateur Girl and Fanboy present the Big Bad Glass Movie Review. Wes Craven, the creator of Scream, left his job as a college professor to work on what famous 70s X-rated movie? Stick around until the end of our reel to find out.
Do you enjoy scary movies, Amateur Girl?
I do. I love Scream movies, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what we're going to be doing today, talking about Scream 5 and Scream 6. So Fanboy here in Chiang Mai, Thailand is going to be listening to Amateur Girl. Can't get it right. Amateur Girl, give her opinion of what she felt. Her probably visceral gut opinion of she's the guts or the heart of our duo, and I'm the brain. So she's going to give her visceral opinion of this two movies.
I love that. I am the heart. That totally is my personality. So I loved this movie, these movies. Yes, loved them, loved every minute. I only had to fast forward a little bit because, a couple parts were a little too gory for me. But overall, loved it. Obsessed with the girls' eyebrows. Like I even did my eyebrows a little bit more today because like obsessed, especially the second film. I felt like their eyebrows got even better. But I loved the fashion or flannel from the 90s because that's when it started, and had so much fun revisiting old friends like Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox, huge fan. And then David Arquette. People wondered why Courtney Cox chose him. He's adorable. I love him. And Jack Quaid, who actually is Meg Ryan's son, also, not just Randy Quaid's son, but Meg Ryan's son.
No,
Which
you
I thought was
said no.
interesting.
Randy Quaid, Meg Ryan, I don't think would ever marry Randy Quaid. Continue. Randy Quaid's one of those.
Well, it is, and interestingly enough, if you go back and watch the first Scream, which I did after I watched these films, I went and rewatched it because that was when I was a teenager.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the same age as I'm a year younger than Nev Campbell, but she actually said in a line about wishing that she wasn't a Meg Ryan movie, and then funnily, her love interest is Jack Quaid in the film.
Quaid.
So
Meg Ryan's son,
yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Jenny Ortega, I mean, she just always brings it to every film. She's just fantastic. She's here to stay. She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um,
she's a new Scream queen.
Yeah. Then Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah, he's a real asshole, but he used to be. He's played in so many things. I just can't even remember the stuff, right?
I'm the heart. Loved him, even though you shouldn't. But I loved him.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler alerts, right?
And yeah, so just a lot of jumps, a lot of fun. I will take back what I said a while ago that I said there are no good films anymore. This was a great film. I thought it was well written, well directed, exciting. Just made me forget about my problems. It was just a super fun film. Fashion was great. The eyebrows were on point. 100% for me. I just thought it was perfection.
All right. 100%. So I'm giving it about 85%. I'll tell you why. Are you finished with the reason I'm giving it? Well, Scream 5, I think I'm glad you saw it, because I think that if you saw Scream 5 first, because you saw them in reverse, that you would have turned it off. Because that first scene with Gina Ortega is super intense, right?
Right.
Super intense.
I
thought. And but you already knew that nothing's gonna happen, right? But see, I didn't. I had no clue.
Oh,
So
man.
I was taken by
Oh,
surprise
man.
right from the get-go because
Oh,
I saw it
man.
in the
Oh,
correct order.
man.
And
Oh, man.
anyway, yeah, like you said, these are fantastic. It's a fantastic franchise, and like Six talks because goes into the philosophy of franchises and everything, which is so funny, right?
Right.
That's the whole point of these movies is to make comment. I mean, they're like an intellectual form of the slasher, right?
Right.
They've taken the Wes Craven was the originator of this, and of course, Wes Craven is, I know Wes Craven from all the way back to The Last House on the Left, which is probably one of the most horrific movies ever made, if you've
It
ever
is.
seen it.
I
It's
have.
truly horrifying. And he was, and
Awful.
Wes Craven was a college professor. And he said when you go to meetings, they thought but he said people thought Charlie Manson was going to walk in the room, and then this college professor comes in smoking a pipe, and it's like, and kept literally the patched elbows on his jacket and everything, right? Like the
Right.
college professor. And because that's what basically he just has taken the horror genre and just turned it on his head and put some thought into it. Then Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, other people took over his franchises and and did either better or good or bad or whatever, usually for the worst, right?
Right.
And then he comes to Scream, which he did in the 90s, right?
That's
So
right.
in the 70s was Last South on the Left, 80s Nightmare on Elm Street, 90s was Scream. And with Scream, he basically is commenting on the slasher, movie itself, right? Obviously,
right.
that's self-referencing itself. It's like the snake eating its own tail or whatever. It's just the first ones they're talking, but it's also talking about, I think, this is my opinion, and I didn't really look at any reviews or anything like that. This is coming from what I think. It's also a comment on technology. What is the evil thing? It's the movies. He's like commenting on and also the telephone. Ring, ring, ring. And the first ones it's the landline, of course, but now it's the cell phones are going off everywhere. So it's like, and they're always the bringers of evil. The
Hey,
phones.
baby.
I mean, nothing good comes over that phone. Nothing. Another thing about the spook mask of the ghost, he never talks through the mask. He only talks through the phone, which is very creepy also. So that's what I'm saying. It's really a comment on technology, movies bringing the evil. The telephone is always a messenger of evil and all this stuff. So I don't know what Wes Craven, I think he used that in his first one too. What Wes Craven has against technology, since it was his friend. Wes Craven's dead now, but it was his friend because that's how he made his successes through movies, right? But it's as an intellectual, you can think about things. You can have two minds about something, right?
I will say that the real star is the voice. It's
It
some
is.
dude that is the voice. His
There's
voice is
an
perfect.
actor who does that voice. I saw it in the credits. I didn't get this as the voice. So it's an interesting comment. And the guys who took it over, it's another partnership, two filmmakers, and they originally belonged to this thing called Chad and Bob and something or another. They're YouTube directors. I mean, they both were, at least one of them was working in the film industry, like as a camera operator and loading the film, that type of work. And but then he met up with this other guy, or I guess there's three of them, and they started making with the Groundlings there in Los Angeles. They started making like short little horror shorts. So you can look them up in the last minute because I did go watch some of them, and they're pretty funny and pretty scary, right? Kind of what Scream is. So they came out of that, and as Spielberg said years ago during Jaws, he always wanted to do a movie where the laugh turns into a scream or a scream turns into a laugh, and they've kind of like been following that pattern in the Scream shows, especially in these two, right? So they're lighthearted, and can you say they're lighthearted? They're horrifyingly lighthearted, though, right? And there's like a glee to them, a joy, and the horrifyingness of it all. But they're generally scary, right?
Mhm.
I thought they were generally scary, especially the number 5. And I thought 5 was very brutal. It was brutal. The murders were brutal. But 6, they gotten to the point where, I don't want to say it, but they get these horrible stabbings, and somehow these people are still walking around. I don't know how they do it. They got massive losses of blood, and they're still hopping around and doing stuff, right? So it's just so funny. So there's that. So that's I would take, but I would give the 5 a little bit higher, lower rating, but not much than 6. The only reason I don't think people who are squeamish might have trouble with the brutality of the violence, right? And even though it's very kind of a thoughtful film, and it's got, and what I love about the Scream also, it's not just usually a slasher. You got Jason, you got the Halloween guy. You got a character walking around. You know what he is. He's just a guy out to kill everybody, right? And this one, you always have a whodunit. Like, who the hell is it? Who the hell is it? And it drives you crazy because you really can't figure it out, which is what's so great about it, right?
Yeah.
You think, oh yeah, it's probably that, but then it turns out not to be that. Oh, it might be that, or no, it's not that either. And they do it very well, don't they? They cover the tracks so well. So, without doing spoiler alerts, it's I would again give it. She gives it amateur was 100%. I will give it 85% just because of the violence and some of the the quirkier, maybe kind of conceptual stuff where it's kind of like the Ghost in the Machine type thing, right? Where they just make it up to keep the story going. But other than that, a fantastic ride. And again, like you said, I did love it enough to go back and watch the originals just because I thought it might taint my opinion of the last two. The only thing I don't like is that Neve Campbell didn't come back. I really enjoyed seeing her again. And,
so did I.
And then she didn't come back, folks, because they didn't give her enough money. So they just kind of wrote her into a vacation with her kids. That's what they said, right? It's so funny. And so hopefully, if they do it number 7, with the Carpenter sisters, I call them the Carpenter sisters, Gina Ortega and anyway,
Melissa Barrera.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with her, but I liked her quite a bit. Yeah, she's really got the eyebrows, right? Melissa Barrera.
Love them.
Yeah, and but anyway, it was just a great ride. I really can't say much more without repeating.
Except for one thing, while you were ranting, because that's what it's our rant.
Okay.
I thought, in both the movies, and the first one, if you go back and watch the first one, the original, and then you watch the 2, they love just going to parties and forgetting that there's a killer on the loose. They don't seem to. I'd be cowering in the corner with the door locked and like all the furniture pushed up against the door and the alarm on and a gun and a knife. You know what I mean? Like, they're really worried that there's like some murderer that they're not sure if it's their friend or the neighbor.
He thinks the cops will show up, but in this case, the cops show up and they get killed. They take care of that situation right there. So that was what I was talking about, the Ghost in the Machine, though. The kind of they're kind of manipulating it. The story, it's not organic enough to make it work. But again, it's a ride and it's fun, and it makes you think a little bit about the genre, the slasher genre and everything, and about movies in general. Well, in number 6, they did comment on quite a few of them, right? And the Psycho and Nightmare, and they didn't talk about. Oh yeah, they did talk about Friday the 13th too. So yeah, they did bring them all in. They kind of covered the base. So again, if you love this kind of, if you like the Scream franchise from the beginning, you got to see these 2 movies, correct?
So correct, fanboy.
So anyway, that is our little rant about Scream 5 and Scream 6. And next week we'll be back with be talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to. Okay. And that is Fanboy signing off from Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Wes Craven worked on many X-rated films in the 70s, including Deep Throat. His credits were under many aliases like Abe Snake.